A poor single dad opens his door to a stranger soaked in the rain. He doesn't know she's a millionaire's daughter and that letting her in for one night will change his life forever. What begins as an act of compassion soon becomes a story of love, redemption, and the quiet power of kindness that transforms an entire town. Every morning starts the same for James Author. 33 years old, carpenter, widower, and father to an 8-year-old girl named Lily. He doesn't wake to an alarm anymore. His body's trained to rise before dawn. The first thing he hears is the soft sound of his daughter breathing in the next room. Proof that he still has something worth living for. His little house creaks with the chill of early morning. Sunlight filters through worn curtains, catching the dust that floats in the air. On the kitchen counter, a chipped mug waits beside an empty coffee pot. There's a faded family photo on the fridge. James, his late wife, and a baby Lily, smiling on a summer day that feels like another lifetime. That he pours black coffee, ties his boots, and glances toward the small bedroom where his daughter sleeps. One more day, he whispers to himself. Just one more day closer to something better. It's been 3 years since the accident that took his wife, and since then, life has been about survival. Bills, repairs, late nights at the workshop, all endured for the sake of the little girl who calls him daddy. He steps into his workshop out back. It smells of sawdust and effort, shelves stacked with half-finished furniture and old tools inherited from his father. James works quietly, the scrape of wood on sandpaper his morning prayer. Despite the struggle, he's known around town as the man who helps without being asked. Fixing Mrs. Harper's porch for free. Repairing a kid's broken bicycle on his lunch break. It's not about money. It's about decency, something he refuses to lose, no matter how hard life gets. Later that evening, the rain starts. A slow drizzle that turns into a heavy downpour. James finishes a late job and drives home in his old pickup truck, wipers groaning across the windshield. The road is empty, glistening beneath the streetlights. Then, through the blur of rain, he sees her. A woman, young, maybe late 20s, standing by the roadside, drenched to the bone. Her car sits dead behind her, hazard lights flickering weakly in the storm. James slows, lowers his window. "Hey, are you all right? You'll catch your death out here." The woman turns, her face pale beneath dripping hair. "My car died. And my phone. It's out of battery," she says, voice shaking. She's clearly not from around here. Her coat, even soaked, looks expensive. She hesitates when he opens the passenger door, but something in his eyes, calm, honest, kind, makes her step inside. The drive is quiet. Rain drums on the roof. Thunder rolls in the distance. She stares out the window, stealing glances at the man who rescued her. There's no pity in his tone, no questions, just a steady warmth she hasn't felt in a long time. When they reach his house, James gestures her in. "My place isn't much, but it's warm." The living room is small but cozy. A flickering fire, a few framed drawings by Lily on the wall, the smell of wood smoke and coffee. James hands her a towel, sets a mug of tea on the table. "You didn't have to do this," she says quietly, wrapping herself in the blanket he offers. "No one deserves to be out there alone in weather like this," he replies simply. As if it's the most natural thing in the world, she studies him. The rough hands, the worn clothes, the gentle voice. There's something almost noble about his simplicity. For a moment, the world feels still. Outside, the storm rages on, but in this small house, warmth winds die in the corner. Lily stirs, half asleep. "Daddy," she murmurs. James smiles softly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Go back to sleep." The woman, Claire Adams, watches this father, this stranger who's given her kindness without question, and something inside her shifts. She came from a world where everything had a price. But tonight, kindness was free. As James looks at her across the room, unaware of who she truly is or what her name will soon mean to his life, he whispers to himself, almost absently, "Guess kindness don't cost a thing after all." Neither of them knows that this single night will spark a love that changes them both and everyone around them. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you believe kindness still matters, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It helps these stories reach others who need hope today. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Morning light filters through the window, soft and golden, breaking through the gray of last night's storm. James stands at the stove, frying eggs, the smell of breakfast filling the small kitchen. Lily hums quietly at the table, drawing in her notebook. For a moment, everything feels normal. Claire steps into the room wearing one of James's old flannel shirts, sleeves rolled up, still slightly oversized. Her hair is tousled from sleep, and though she's clearly someone used to luxury, she carries herself with surprising humility. "Morning," James says, smiling faintly. "Hope you like your eggs over easy. It's all I've got." She smiles back, that tired but genuine kind of smile. "After last night, I'd eat anything you made." Lily giggles. Daddy's a good cook when he remembers not to burn the toast. They all laugh. And something shifts, the kind of laughter that feels like sunlight after weeks of rain. As they eat, Claire watches this father and daughter. Their simple world, their quiet love. No servants, no schedules, no expectations. Just care. Real care. She hasn't seen that in years. When she offers to help clean up, James shakes his head. "You're a guest. Rest a bit. I'll drive you to town when the road's clear." But Claire insists, rolling up her sleeves. "Then at least let me wash the dishes." James chuckles. "All right then, Miss Stubborn." As they work side by side, she finally asks, "You always this kind to strangers?" He shrugs, drying a plate. "I just do what I'd hope someone would do for Lily if she were ever in trouble." There's a silence there, heavy, sincere. Claire glances toward the little girl, drawing on the floor, and her expression softens. Later, as they drive into town, James tells her more about losing his wife, about struggling to keep his small carpentry business afloat, about how Lily's laughter is what keeps him standing. Claire listens closely, her heart tightening. He's not complaining. He's just honest. When they reach the bus stop, Claire hesitates. The city skyline glimmers in the distance, but something about leaving feels wrong. She looks at James, his rough hands on the steering wheel, his tired eyes that still somehow hold hope, and says softly, "Thank you for everything. I won't forget this." James nods. "Take care of yourself out there." As she steps out, she turns back once more, just as he's pulling away. She doesn't know why, but she feels like she's leaving something important behind. That a few days later, James returns from work to find an envelope on his porch. No name, just his address written in neat handwriting. Inside, a note reads, "Kindness should never go unnoticed. You reminded me what it means to care without expecting anything in return. Claire." Tucked behind it is a business card. Claire Adams, Executive Director. Dawson Industries Point, one of the largest corporations in the state. James stares at it, stunned. He'd assumed she was just another lost traveler, not someone who probably owns half the city skyline. He sits on his porch for a long time, the note trembling in his hand. The rain beginning to fall again. That night, as Lily sleeps, James gazes out the window and whispers, "Guess kindness really does come back around." Across town, Claire sits in her penthouse apartment, city lights flickering against glass walls. She thinks of that warm little house, of Lily's laughter, of James's quiet decency. Surrounded by wealth, she feels poorer than ever, and she knows she has to see him again. Days turn into weeks, but Claire can't shake the memory of that small wooden house, the scent of coffee in the morning, or the sound of Lily's laughter echoing through the kitchen. In her high-rise office, surrounded by glass, chrome, and silence, she finds herself replaying James's words over and over. "I just do what I'd hope someone would do for Lily." One afternoon, she sits through yet another board meeting. Numbers, profits, projections. None of it feels real anymore. Her father's voice on the phone echoes in her head, commanding and distant. "You can't disappear like that again, Claire. You have responsibilities." She hangs up before he finishes. And just like that, she makes a decision. A week later, James is in his workshop, sawdust swirling like snowflakes in the sunlight. He's building a small desk for a neighbor's kid. Part of a project he started to help local families who can't afford furniture. He doesn't make much from it, but it keeps his hands busy and his heart steady. Then, a familiar voice behind him. "You never told me you were an artist." He turns around, and there she is. Claire, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, not the business suit from the card he'd found. She smiles nervously. "Hope I'm not intruding." James blinks, stunned. Claire? You're back? I told you I wouldn't forget, she says softly. I wanted to see how you were doing. And maybe return the kindness you showed me. Over the next few weeks, she visits more often. Sometimes she brings lunch. Sometimes she just sits and talks while he works. She and Lily bond, quickly painting birdhouses, baking cookies, laughing like old friends. For the first time in years, James's home feels full again, but not everyone in town understands. Rumors spread fast that whispers about the rich city woman hanging around the widowed carpenter. Some say she's pitying him. Others think she's using him for a story. James hears it all and tries to ignore it. But deep down, the old fear creeps in. People like her don't stay. One night, after dinner, he finally asks, Claire, why are you really here? She looks at him, hurt flickering in her eyes. Because I needed to remember what real people are like. You helped me do that. He sighs. You don't owe me anything, Claire. I don't want charity. Her voice trembles, but her gaze holds steady. This isn't charity, James. It's gratitude. Maybe even something more. There's a long silence between them, the kind that hums with everything unsaid. Lily peeks from her doorway, smiling, sensing something beautiful growing even if neither adult dares to name it. But just as life begins to feel hopeful again, the obstacle comes. One morning, two men in suits arrive at James's shop, sent by Claire's father. They hand him a letter, curt and cold. Stay away from my daughter. She has a future that doesn't involve small-town charity cases. James's face pales. For a moment, his world tilts. He doesn't tell Claire right away. Instead, he withdraws. Calls go unanswered. Visits stop. The workshop, once full of laughter, grows quiet again. When Claire finally finds him, he's working late, eyes heavy, voice distant. Maybe your father's right. Maybe we come from different worlds. She steps closer, angry tears glistening. Don't you dare let him decide what's right for us. You gave me kindness when you had nothing to gain. I'm not walking away now. He turns away, his voice breaking. I've already lost one person I loved. I can't risk losing another. The silence between them feels unbearable. A mix of love, fear, and pride. Claire leaves, her heart shattered but determined. She knows this isn't the end. Have you ever had to fight for something or someone everyone else said wasn't meant for you? Tell me in the comments. Your story might just remind someone else not to give up. James buries himself in work, the rhythmic buzz of saws and the scent of pine masking the ache he carries inside. Claire, meanwhile, sits in her corner office high above the city, but the view feels meaningless now. She's surrounded by everything she once thought mattered. Success, money, comfort, yet somehow, she's never felt poorer. One rainy afternoon, as she stares out the window, she remembers Lily's laughter, the smell of pancakes, the quiet warmth of that tiny home. And suddenly, she knows. Claire walks out of her office without a word, down the elevator, through the lobby, into the storm. For the first time in her life, she's not running away from something. She's running towards something real. Meanwhile, James is in his shop when the door bursts open. He looks up, startled, to see Claire drenched again, just like the night they met. But this time, her eyes aren't full of fear. They're full of fire. James, she says, breathless, I'm done letting other people decide who I should care about. He blinks, torn between shock and disbelief. Claire, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She interrupts, stepping closer. You showed me what kindness means, what family means, and I'm not letting fear or pride take that away. Before he can speak, she hands him an envelope. This one not from her father, but from her. Inside is a proposal, a joint community project to rebuild the town's old furniture workshop and train unemployed locals in carpentry, funded by her company. His name is listed as co-director. James's eyes widen. Claire, this could change everything. She smiles softly. It already has. News of the project spreads fast. At first, some townsfolk are skeptical, but when they see James training young men and women, when they see Claire rolling up her sleeves and sanding wood beside them, skepticism turns to admiration. The workshop becomes a heartbeat for the community. People learning, creating, believing again. Lily beams every time she visits, proudly telling anyone who'll listen, that's my dad. And that's Miss Claire. One day, as the first batch of furniture is completed, the whole town gathers to celebrate. Children run between tables, laughter echoing in the air. The scent of sawdust and fresh paint blending with roasted corn and music. Claire stands beside James, watching him smile for the first time in a long while. Asterisk a smile that's full. Free, alive. You did this, she says quietly. He shakes his head. No, we did. As the sun sets, golden light spills through the workshop windows, catching the dust like tiny stars. James turns to Claire, his voice low but steady. You changed my life, Claire. She meets his gaze, tears glimmering. You saved mine. Their hands find each other, simple, certain, human. Months later, that little town is transformed. New jobs, new hope, new beginnings. And at the heart of it all stands the workshop that started with one act of kindness on a stormy night. Have you ever seen how one small gesture can ripple out and change everything around it? Tell me your story in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it today. 2 years later, the town looks completely different. The once quiet streets are alive again, the hum of saws and laughter from the workshop drifting into every corner. New stores have opened. People walk with a little more pride, a little more purpose. At the center of it all stands James, now confident and calm, wearing a clean work shirt with the logo of the new Community Carpentry Center stitched proudly on the chest. The Willow Project, built on kindness, that he's not struggling anymore. He's leading, teaching, inspiring. Beside him, Claire moves easily among the people, no longer the distant businesswoman in heels, but someone who belongs. She greets locals by name, listens to their stories, shares in their laughter. Her company didn't just invest in a town, she invested her heart. Lily, now 10, runs into the shop carrying a handmade sign covered in paint. Family Day celebration. Everyone welcome. She holds it up proudly. James kneels down, brushing sawdust from her cheek. Looks perfect, sweetheart. Claire steps beside them, smiling. The three of them, an unlikely family, built not by circumstance, but by compassion, stand in the same place where a broken man once worked alone, and a lost woman once knocked on his door. That night, under strings of lights, the community gathers again. There's music, laughter, and stories shared about how the Willow Project gave people a second chance, that a father who found steady work, a young woman who learned a trade, a teenager who stayed out of trouble because someone believed in him. James looks around and realizes that the kindness he once offered without expectation has grown into something far greater than he ever imagined. Claire catches his gaze and with a quiet smile says, "You see, James? This is what love built." He nods, emotion thick in his voice. And it started with one small act. As the camera pans over the glowing town. Families, friends, lights twinkling under the night sky, the narrator's voice softens. Sometimes, the greatest changes begin with the simplest choices. A warm meal, a helping hand, a door left open for someone who has nowhere else to go. You never know how your kindness might echo through the lives around you, or how it might come back to change your own. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us in small towns, big cities, and quiet hearts willing to care. If this story touched your heart, please take a second to like this video. It helps more people discover stories that restore faith in humanity. Subscribe for more tales of love, hope, and compassion, the kind of stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. And before you go, ask yourself this: what act of kindness could you perform this week? It doesn't have to be grand, just real. You might change someone's entire world and maybe your own. Thank you for watching, and remember, the world gets a little brighter every time one person chooses to care.